This episode was recorded in the spring of 2024. All pricing data and incentives related to Velux solar products are subject to change. Inquiring parties are encouraged to confirm up-to-date details with a licensed tax professional.
We're here today with Michael Schwartz from Velux. Michael, thanks for joining us on our podcast.
Absolutely. Welcome to White Marsh with the Velux Distribution Center. I hope you were impressed by the spot.
We are. We had a seminar, if you will, earlier with the sales team, and we kind of want to just go through and chat about that, talk about Velux, the history of skylights in general, and see where the conversation takes us.
Great. Well, I always like to be with your team. It's nice to see them out there. Very enthusiastic group of professional salesmen. So I hope they got an impressive message today regarding Velux and the skylight industry.
They did.
We are, as I mentioned, at the Velux Distribution Center. This is for the entire Mid-Atlantic area, so Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Virginia, and of course Maryland, where we're located. And we ship our product out to all those locations. Very quick, very efficient. That's the goal, to get that skylight out to your team and to the customers as soon as possible. So you might hear a little bit of noise in the background. That's the forklifts moving around the facility. Velux is very conscious about making sure there's safety, so that's part of the facility.
Cool. And what does Velux stand for?
Velux, it's Latin. Some people say Velux, but it's Latin for air. That's the VE, ventilation. And then the lux it's a luxury to have daylight. So daylight. Velux is fresh air and daylight. So we started 83 years ago, so quite a long time ago. It was during World War II, and our founder, Mr. Rasmussen, was an architect and engineer, and he would go out to job sites, and they'd do site glazing. So they'd put glass on a built curb, and that was the way they did it. And he said to himself, I think I could make these in a facility, in a factory, and they would be superior, and there would be consistency. And so he started the company. And today, as I said, Velux is in over 42 countries, and we are more than 12,000 employees. So very proud to be part of this organization.
Wow, that's awesome. And you hit a little bit on Velux's history, but what about skylights in general? Like, when did they start, and how did they come to being something that we cut open into the roof?
Great question. So people are phototropic. I mean, daylight is part of our genetic code. So we have, for millennium, been trying to bring daylight into where we live and work and play, because that's how we can see, and that's how we perform tasks to the best of our ability. So years ago, I'm going back to the Greeks and the Romans, they used openings in their buildings to light the space. It just didn't quite work as well if it was raining outside. And so as the Venetians came up with different glass and better ways to have transparency to the outside, skylights became part of that design build. And if you take a look around the United States, factories and sawtooth monitors and skylights have been part of building for centuries, because, as I said, people have to have that daylight in order to work. Certainly before electricity, and now as we have electricity, it just doesn't quite match the different spectrums that come from natural light, how it changes, how it moves, how the winter light and the summer light are different. So a controlled natural light is good quality living.
With the invention of electricity, did we see skylights increase in popularity or decrease in popularity?
Well, if we're looking at electricity, we're looking at, let's say more than 150 years. Skylights became very popular throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s. And then in the 90s, a different type of architectural design became more and more glass walls, where a whole wall with dozens of windows would be put in effect. So skylights became a little bit less, but that's what we do. We try to make sure people see what a window, when it's sloped and angled and placed towards the source of light, the sun, how that's different than a vertical window, and all the benefits that brings Like, let's say if you have too many windows, all of a sudden you lose out on wall space, or you could lose out on privacy. I mean, a kitchen has to have cabinets, has to have a refrigerator, a stove, a microwave, a bathroom. You don't want to have all glass in there because you want privacy. So, or in the living room, it could be furniture. So having the fifth wall is really something spectacular. And I wish more people did it. I have 12 in my house, and it makes my home pleasant to be in. It really does.
Why do you think people don't choose to have skylights in their house?
Well, I can tell you the number one reason we've done our research is going to be a fear of leaking. We go back to the days when our founder was there. It was just somebody made something on site. So you could have something last and be okay. I'm not criticizing all the installations, but what happens was you didn't have something that is precise, engineered particularly to be watertight and to last for decades and decades and decades. And then another thing that I see is that unfortunately some people do not replace a skylight when they're putting on a new roof, and they're missing out on the opportunity of not only improving their technology and getting a warranty and making sure it's done at the right time, because the roof is a system, and they really end up making a mistake, or the contractor makes a mistake by not emphasizing the importance of it. So I highly praise your team. We talked about that today, and they said it's almost without question done every time. So that's what I would see would be problems for a leak, is if you don't replace a skylight, or if you're using poor design material. And we're out there trying to fight that poor stigma with things such as the Velux No Leak Skylight. I mean, the name itself says the no leak, with layers of protection, redundancy. That's what it takes, because you're fighting Mother Nature. You're fighting the elements, and you've got to be accurate 100% of the time.
So what was the evolution of the materials? So we went from just openings with nothing covering them, right? So rain, ice, snow could just dump into the house or the dwelling. And then where do we go from there? What kind of material was up there to at least shield some of the weather?
So it was generally glass, and it was single panes of glass, and then it became the protective coating, the wire glass that you saw popular, in the 1900s, 1920s, 30s, 40s, and then you went to a tempered glass, and then you went to double pane, so 2 panes or even triple pane for more energy efficiency. And then you added things such as inert gases that help prevent airflow throughout the panes, that's very important. People are concerned about energy efficiency. And then you went to the low E coatings that have developed over the years that provide a resistance to heat gain or heat loss. And that's really some of the better technology today. Something in the last 15 years or so that we've really promoted. It's a little older than that, but we've really promoted it. It was laminated interior panes, which is all about safety. So if anything were to ever break, it would stay in one piece. It also is impressive for its deadening of sound. People want that shelter and from noise outside. So those are some of the things. The glass is always the most important part of any window, and we happen to be a roof window, but that's what gives you the view. That's why they call it a window. So that's really where most of the focus has come. Although I can tell you one thing that we have really tried to bring to not only contractors and architects and builders' attention, but especially the homeowners, and that is the automatic shading systems we have. And they are excellent for having light control when you want it. You could put the shade halfway, 80%, no, 100%, and it just blocks that light when you don't want it. But it also does something in terms of energy efficiency, not just in the summertime against a strong sun in June, July, August, but it also is excellent for nighttime. When you put that double pleated shade that has the mylar film inside of it, it acts as a barrier to letting hot air get through the glass. So a window pane probably is never going to match, an R40 wall or ceiling, but you don't get the benefits. Nobody wants to live in a cage. Nobody wants to live in a dungeon. So daylight is welcome. And so by having the best possible daylighting system, which I think is walls and ceilings, combination of, you get the best for that space.
So the glass has evolved a lot over the years. What happened with the frame to make it so that these skylights no longer leak? Because that's the biggest fear I can tell you when I talk to people. They don't want skylights in their house because they don't want something that's going to eventually leak. So what has happened with the frame that surrounds the glass?
Well, the point about the glass, it's a good point about making sure that it's sealed properly. Water's not going to go through the glass itself, but it's where the glass meets the frame. That has to be designed so that no water gets around it. And probably the simplest idea is that they were sloped. So you had that glass sloped, so you'd want to let the water run down to the bottom of the glass back onto the roof. But so, of course, water can get along the edges, and so you'd have to come up with some type of adhesive or sealant material. For the longest time, they're using like a butyl material. If people know about it, it's like a black sticky bubble gum, and that was used. And that did the trick. As I said, we're talking about decades and decades. So after a point, you would change that out, and the new butyl would be sticky too. But I'll tell you, really one of the most impressive things that I have seen as a Velux employee has been the sealant technology. And there's a couple different types, but an instant glaze technology that is cured in the factory. And it is amazing because it's so water resistant. We call it sub-tight, submarine tight, meaning if we're underwater, it could do it. It proved itself really in 1999 when it came out. And then 3, 4, 5 years later, after lots of tests in the lab, we went ahead and felt so confident that we warranted a piece of glass to sit at 0 degrees. That means we know the water will hit against the edges. As that idea about having it flow down the glass, it wasn't going to happen at the same rate. And that to me was a statement of confidence. Very impressive. And I've just seen that consistency for years now where that material is the best that it gets. So I have confidence in it. I'm not just a sales guy. I'm a technical guy. I've got to be out on the roof. So I tell the people all the time, sometimes I see a little bit of it ooze onto the glass, which is, to me fine. And if somebody has a question about it, I just say, that's a good thing because that's out there protecting you. So anyway, that's part of what I've been most impressed with.
And that comes with the 20-year warranty, right? Glass seal?
The glass seal, 20 years against any type of fogging or water condensation. So if you get that, I'd be surprised, only because really I haven't seen really a lot of issues with that seal. And we go all the way back to the early 90s. The technology has just been amazing.
So we got the glass, we got the frame, and now we have the flashing where it meets the roof. And that is the magic of the 10-year no-leak skylight, right?
Yeah, I wish I had a $1 for every time somebody says, I love your flashings, because that means they've installed them and they know how the sill piece, which is at the bottom, and the head piece, which crimps over at the top, how those fit perfectly. We call it an engineered flashing. And then the simplicity, but the proven excellence of step pieces. It's what you do at a dormer. It's what you do at a chimney. It's what you do at a skylight. So you put that metal system together, and then you use underneath that, because that's the top layer. Underneath that would be a membrane. We call it an adhesive membrane. Some guys call it ice and water shield or weather watch, weather guard. It is sticky, and it's been used since the 90s on certain portions of the roof, and it really grabs a hold of that plywood, or in this case, the skylight, and that acts as a barrier. Deck seal, adhesive membrane, step flashing, sealant at the glass. That's a great system.
And you got deck mount and you have curb mount. Could you briefly describe the difference between the two?
Yeah. Is it okay to start with the similarities? Because really, they are Velux brothers. It's the glass is the same. Remember, the glass is the most important part of a window. That's the same. The metal cover, that's the same. That's an aluminum painted, highly designed metal. And then you have the ability to open. You've got the flashing kits. You've got the shades. Even the sizes are pretty much the same in many ways. Here's the difference. The difference is that frame that you had mentioned earlier. The frame or curb, we could use either word because it's really the same idea. If it's a curb mount, that is where the contractor, builder, or roofer builds a curb. Usually it's just a 2x4, an inch and a half wide. Could be a 2x4, 2x6. On a flat roof, it might be a 2x12. They build the curb. Whereas a deck mount, which is really the one that we started with 83 years ago, it's what it's our bread and butter. It's what we're most known for. That is a furniture grade quality wood frame that has been painted. It's been sealed. But it has a groove in it for the builder or modeler to slide the finished material in. It's just very nice. And most roofers really like that. Most builders, of course, love it because we already did it for them. So that's the frame. That's one of the true marks of a Velux.
So the deck mount and the curb mount skylights, is there a compatibility with various roofing materials? Like I can't use a deck mount skylight on Spanish barrel tile, right?
Well, I don't like to contradict you, but I would say you can use both of them. Remember, they're more similar than they are different. So you could use the deck mount really down to a 3/12 pitch is really where you want to don't go below that, and then all the way up to 85 degrees, which is almost a vertical wall. The curb mount, on the other hand, that's the one that I'd mentioned about being warranted at 0 degrees. So a lot of guys will use it on their flat roofs or very low pitch, 1 or 2 12 pitch roofs, because that's successful. As a matter of fact, I have 3 in my house that are 11 years old. They've been great at that low pitch. Then a lot of metal roof guys like the curb mount skylight too, because it's not integrated into the roof. It's separate. So if you ever need to, you can, with a couple screws, pop it off.
I was going to say, that's what I like about curb mount skylights. If and when that skylight goes bad, you don't need to replace the roofing material around it. You just pop that lid off, replace the lid, and you're back to...
Yeah, that's one of the features I really admire about the curb mount too. It's simplicity and how you can get to it easily. So, yeah.
Now, in our seminar, you mentioned the blinds, the shades, right? And you recommended blackout shades, correct?
We call them room darkening. Blackout is the same idea. The goal is to be able to get almost all the light. If we were to go into technical terms, the blackout or the blockout is somewhere in the high 95, 96 area of light being blocked, whereas the room darkening is around 93, 94 is at its peak.
Okay.
They're almost
pretty
the same.
close.
They're almost the same. Kind of like the curb mount, deck mount. They're almost the same, but we use the term room darkening.
Room darkening. And you like the automated solar blinds.
Yeah, we have gone pretty much completely solar when it comes to our shades. That's not to say you couldn't move the shade manually if you ever wanted to, but skylights are generally up high, so you don't have to get a rod out and try to lock the hook and everything together and turn it. It just wasn't used very much. People like automation, and especially in something high. The other part is the product that is used automatically at night or automatically during the day. We have systems. We have what they call the Velux ACTIV, where the homeowner just sets it up, and every day at a certain time, like I have mine at my house, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, they're all going down. In the morning, 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, they're coming up. So it's all automation, which, the old manual ones, you just couldn't do that. And with the government, and it's okay to talk about this tax credit. I think it's very important for people that are listening to know about, which is the federal government has been promoting solar power for 15 years, and they've had some tax credits out there. So the solar shades have a small solar panel. Our solar Fresh Air Skylights, which we can talk about, they have a small panel. And we even have something for our sun tunnel that has a small solar panel. So if it has a solar panel from Velux, there's 3 of those products, it's really, you're getting a benefit pretty much for free.
That's awesome. So the solar panel is with the blinds, and it's with the venting skylights now, right?
Yes, the solar Fresh Air Skylight is what we call it. That's a product. Remember, we've had automatic skylights for 40 years with the rain sensor and everything. The solar ones came out in the late 2000s, around 2008, 9, over in Europe, and then we brought them to market in 2012, and they've been exceptional. So for the last 12 years, that's the majority of our automatic skylight sales. People really like them because you don't have to hook them up to electricity, and they can be in the middle of the woods facing north, and they are fully charged every day. So you can appreciate the benefits of that airflow.
So if they're open and it starts raining, those skylights will automatically close.
Yeah, that was something that they came out with years ago. The sprinkling industry came out with it. They invented that, and then we started using something similar to that in the early 80s, 82. And the idea is people want peace of mind if they're going away, or if they're leaving them open at night to enjoy a breeze in the summer evening or the fall, early fall. Then what happens is you get a little bit rainstorm coming up, and skylight closes automatically.
That's awesome. And then the other product you guys have relating to solar is the solar night light.
Right, the sun tunnel. So the sun tunnel is what we call the gift of daylight, because you're bringing natural light to an unexpected area, a hallway, a bathroom, a closet, maybe a remodeling that had darkened a space is now going to be bright. And so the sun tunnel has been great. And about 6-7 years ago, we saw the idea of these little solar lights that you see outside in walkways and patios and decks. And we said, let's see if we can use that and have something designed for our sun tunnel. So when somebody puts in a sun tunnel and gets the benefit of the natural light, then they can also get a small night light so that, at evening they're walking down to the bathroom or the kitchen, they've got a little light. It's an impressive little gadget.
How bright are those sun tunnel lights?
Okay, so it's important that we use the word night light. Okay, because night light is
so it's not like a recessed light.
It's not a recessed light. It's a 2-watt bulb, and what I have found it very similar is a phone. So if you got your phone and you turn the flashlight on, that's about what you're going to get. So you get that, it's an LED light, and it turns on automatically. So you don't have to turn it on and off. It's every day when the sun goes down, the sensor says, we got to turn on. And then when the sun comes up, it goes back on. And most of the time it will make it through. It's sometimes in the winter because it's not quite as strong a sun, and you've got more daylight or more nighttime. You might not make it through all 12 or 14 hours. You might only get 8 hours or 9 or 10. But it's still a great feature to have in the sun tunnel. Certainly economically, it's great.
So what's new for Velux in 2024?
We are really on the cutting edge when it comes to new types of decorative features. Like, for example, we can have the skylights painted. They can be painted red or blue or gold or copper. So that's one feature that's relatively new with Velux. We are coming out with, once again, the shades. We are really going to one type. So I'll say that's new. If you've got some homeowners out there thinking of different colors, we're going to recommend the room darkening white, since most ceilings are white, the interior of the skylight's white, the railing's white. So that's kind of new for us.
Good. Keep it simple.
Yeah, we are trying to keep it simple. I'll tell you what, Dave, how about if next year we get together and you'll ask me that question on what's new, and I'll have some surprises for you then, okay?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Ooh. So to wrap things up, is there a particular project that's noteworthy that you could share a story about relating to skylights, either a job that you were personally involved with or someone on your team or somebody at Velux was involved with?
I'll tell you one that I appreciated. It was just this past Thanksgiving, and I have a gentleman that works with Velux quite a bit. And I am an advocate of having Velux in your own house to see what the skylight will bring. All right. And I think you heard me say to the guys, I've asked them who has them. So we want to do that. It's kind of like spreading the benefits. And so this fella, even though he was working closely with Velux, didn't have one. And I was after him, kind of needling him a little bit. And finally he said, okay, let's give it a try. So he left on a business trip for a couple weeks, and he gave the green light to a crew that I knew, and I stepped in a couple times. And this was from no skylights to a perfectly lined triple gang system with the shades and with the Fresh Air Skylights. And it just transformed the space. And now the fella, every time he has guests over, that he takes them there and he goes through the whole system. And even his wife is just so enamored with the results. And I didn't want to say, I told you so. So I didn't say that. I thought it, but I didn't say it. So that was probably my favorite one this year that took place over Thanksgiving.
That's awesome. Yeah, we did a noteworthy project a couple years ago where we cut in skylights to a deck house.
Oh, yeah.
And it went really well. The homeowners were super excited about opening up the room in the back of the house, which was typically shaded and dark and just had not the greatest feel to it when you walked in. Otherwise, the home was beautiful. When we added those skylights, oh my, you should just see their faces. They were just, breath of fresh air. It was beautiful. Let the light in, and it changed the whole feel of that home in the back of the house. So it does make a huge difference. And I'm a big proponent of skylights. When we're doing solar, obviously we want to limit the amount of obstructions on the roof. But if there's a fair compromise between skylights as obstructions and openings that allow air to come in, if you're venting, or the light to come in, then we're definitely fans of it. So.
Well, anyone that's listening to us, I invite you to reach to myself or Dave and get us to give you an opinion, because there's all sort from our experiences, years of it, we can find something that would work for you and certainly help your house. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for being part of our podcast.